Today Will came out for a lesson and got right to work with Aries. Here he is explaining to me that he'd like to see me lunge Aries more from a driving position behind him. If I am too far forward, at Aries' shoulder, he is continuously running through me to go forward, rather than being driven forward from behind with no impediments. Will also suggested that I vary up the groundwork, ask for hind end, then back up, then front end, then hind end, and more hind end, then front end, then back up. By varying it up, Aries doesn't get bored, and he stays focused on me rather than thinking he knows what is coming next. Our one all-encompassing problem is forward. As I watched Will and Aries, it looked as though Aries was confused about what the answer might be. Forward just doesn't occur to him as a possible answer. My goal in between this and next lesson is to get Aries to think forward. He will go at liberty, but once on a line, he braces and sucks back. Until he has forward on the brain, he isn't ready to ride. His saddling issue is vastly improving, but it's still there, and is still linked to a lack of forward. As Will experimented with Aries, he put a butt rope on him while at liberty. This is going to be one good roping horse when we're done with him. Aries gets the rope up under his tail when he kicks out. That can't be very comfortable. Will tries to knock it loose, but Aries clamps down with that tail. If Aries can learn to go forward freely, a whole slew of problems will go away. He will breathe better. All muscle tensions will subside. He won't feel trapped. His mind will free up, and he will not have so much stress. It is so vital that he learns to go forward. Will noticed that once on line, the only way to get Aries to go forward was by using the butt rope. He said, "I hate to teach him that the butt rope has a meaning, but forward is so important for now. If you can't get him to canter on the line by any other means, use the butt rope." The butt rope is a much preferred method to chasing him around, hitting him on the butt. Be creative. Use what works, then gradually wean off of it later. Signals need to be very distinct and refined. Here, Will is rubbing Aries all over with the rope. He wanted him to stay still. But in the next instant, he wanted forward. The only thing that changes is his leading hand, in this case, his left hand. If he wants Aries to be still, the lead hand stays down, not inviting him forward. Once he wants forward, the leading hand goes up. This is a clear, distinct signal for Aries to follow. This is a variation on the follow the feel exercise. By putting the rope on the saddle horn, the angle at which Aries feels the halter line is different. But he understands that it still means for him to follow, and he turns around. By changing the location of the fulcrum, I can add some variety to a simple exercise. Here we are adding some dimensions to the hind foot yielding exercise. Aries was fine to yield to the side, but maybe wasn't so willing to yield straight back. Will had Miranda hold Aries in case Aries decided to leave, which he is allowed to do. Will is looking for a give. That could be giving the foot backward, shifting his weight back, or actually stepping backward. This exercise is really good for a horse with heavy fear issues of objects in their blind spot. Being that having that fear kept Aries alive for 11 years in the wild, he is understandably reluctant to give that up. But he is starting to really trust that whatever we crazy humans do, we won't harm him. On the new side, Will starts by pulling the foot forward and sideways, both directions Aries has already shown he is willing to do. Then he goes back towards the rear. Watch this whole sequence and see when Will gives. It's instant and complete. As Aries gets the picture, Will shortens the rest time between requests. Horses are great with patterns. If you are consistent, they will get it. Give them credit for their abilities and try not to overdo an exercise. I wanted to start out by showing you some of the stretches I do with Aries before I work him. My vet recommended I start by doing shoulder rolls. I am alternately turning his shoulder inward and outward. The horse's shoulder blade ends right underneath the front of the saddle, and the shoulder blades are usually a neglected aspect of motion. But small changes in the angle can greatly help a horse loosen up. Next, I go to belly lifts. By scratching along the midline of a horse's belly, you can get them to raise their back, something we want them to do under saddle to carry our weight effectively. Aries has been hollowing his back. This stretch helps him feel what it's like to lift his back, and it will help strengthen those muscles for when he does use them correctly under saddle. The longer he holds his back muscles up, the better off he is. And now to warming up. We go through the usual groundwork exercises, yielding hind end, front end, and particularly going forward. I would like to emphasize that these are not only a physical warm-up, where he bends his rib cage and moves his legs, it's also a mental warm-up, allowing him to focus in on what I'm asking. Adding in something new now and then always keeps the mind fresh. Throughout his warm-up, I've been asking Aries to change speed. Stop to walk, walk to trot, little trot to big trot. The closer I get to canter, the more energy he will need to expend. When he gives me a really good try at the canter, I stop. Soon I won't stop after he canters, but for now, I want him to get an immediate release for a big effort. He was blinking like crazy, which, like licking and chewing, is usually a sign that something is sinking in. His canter is still bracy and not very pretty, but it's a canter and it's forward. Can't be picky when you're just starting out. That is how undeniably important going forward is. You can fix the other stuff later, but you can't fix anything unless they are moving. After he was hollow, I wanted to reiterate the desired body position. It will help with muscle memory in time. I do have to reprogram those muscles. Afterwards, we headed up to the playground to go play. I started out with the teeter-totter. This thing is great. You can show your horse how to deal with shifting ground in a safe and controlled way. It also is a trust-building exercise. Aries can learn that I'm not going to put him in a position where he will get hurt. Every time he conquers a fear with me, he will have that much more faith in my leadership. Then we went over to the bridge, where I asked Aries to turn around on the bridge. He has to be pretty aware of where his feet are, how wide the bridge is, and where he needs to shift his weight. But let's face it, this was child's play to him. He didn't even break a sweat bead for it. And just 'cause it was there, I ran up the dirt pile and down the other side. Aries came down, tossing his head, and did a small twitch of a buck. He was playing. In his own subdued, not sure if I really want to let my guard down kind of way, he was playing. So I kept trying to get him to do more. He didn't all out let loose like Picasso does. But this was a huge change over any other time that I've tried to get him to play. And once you get going, the spirit of play just takes over. I don't think he could help it after a while. It didn't take very long for me to realize how drastically out of shape I was for this. I think Aries felt bad for me. What he seemed to enjoy the most was going up the little hill and careening down the backside and going down the hill. Before I started to feel asthmatic, I thought maybe we should stop. I think Aries would have been fine to play more. And next time we go out there, I'll come up with more games for us to play.